The next Dragon Ball series, Dragon Ball Daima, has been announced. Now, I talked about this a few days ago, but I was more so talking about how Dragon Ball Daima is a good thing for everyone to experience. But today, I want to focus more so on how Dragon Ball Daima is beneficial to the video games. Now, if there's any video game that comes to mind that Dragon Ball Daima is going to be beneficial for, it's Dragon Ball Heroes, because when it comes down to quite literally any Dragon Ball media, Heroes is going to get it first. The downside with that is Heroes is still just limited to Japan. So because of that, we're not really going to be able to experience that unless we go over to Japan. However, if it goes into Heroes with it being a worldwide franchise, like not like a region specific thing like Heroes, right? Then it's safe to say that if it goes into Heroes, then it'll probably spread out into other Dragon Ball games as well. One of which is, of course, Dokkan Battle, because Dokkan Battle is more akin to Heroes than any other game is in the West. And I mean that in terms of them receiving characters, not gameplay or story or anything of the sort, but in terms of characters. So I can definitely see Dokkan getting a ton of those characters. Xenoverse 2, maybe. I mean, then again, we are about to be on DLC 17. So if there's another game that's probably going to get those characters, it'll probably end up being Xenoverse 2. But of course, the main focus of this channel in particular is Dragon Ball Legends. Now, again, all of Goku and his friends have turned into kids. So the way how this is going to benefit Dragon Ball Legends is, of course, by boosting the kids tag, because that tag is in the game, but hardly ever gets utilized. We do have units on the tag, like, of course, Kid Goku, Kid Gohan, Kid Trunks, Goten, etc. There are, like, units on that tag. Oh, and of course, Pan. But there are units on that tag, but they don't really have much going on because that tag doesn't really get buffed like that. It's usually, like, they're a kids tag unit, but there's other tags that surround that unit that are just more prevalent to the point where that's what gets boosted. So in this particular case, seeing that it would be, in a sense, a new saga, whether it's canon or not is irrelevant. Seeing that it would be like, I guess like a new saga, whether it's like the Daima saga or whatever the case may be, they can use that opportunity to boost the kids tag. Whether they do want to release a new Kid Goku, whether they do want to release, like, you know, Kid Vegeta, Kid Piccolo, there's Kid Krillin, which, side note, I'm still surprised Kid Krillin is not, like, on the Dragon Ball tag, because he fought in Dragon Ball, but I digress. But like a Kid Krillin, you know, and all the other characters, heck, we could even get like a Kid Master Roshi, and that could work. I mean, if he fights in that show. But there is a bit more variety that they can take advantage of when it comes down to this tag that's, it's dead, but it's not dead at the same time, because that tag does have good units. So again, there are things that they can utilize with this tag, and hopefully it'll also allow them to be a bit more free with some of the units that they add into the game, because on the GT side of things, I'm actually still surprised that we don't have Goku Jr. and Vegeta Jr. in Legends yet. And Legends has been going on for 5 years, and it took us up to the 3rd year to get Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, like, and there's still like some characters that they could add. I mean, like, if they wanted to, they could add Oceania Shenron. Again, Goku Jr. and Vegeta Jr. are also characters that they could add. They just haven't done it yet, so I don't know. But either way though, Legends has a lot to gain by adding a lot of those characters into the game. Again, that's depending on if a majority of them actually do fight. Bare minimum, I'm expecting Goku and Vegeta. Bare minimum, and that's, again, not even to mention the potential villains that we will see along the way as well. Now, of course, we don't know who the villain is, or, you know, what their moves are, what moves they'll utilize if they even fight, or whatever the case may be. But if there are, like, some cool villains, then of course I expect them to also be thrown into Legends, which of course, if they're villains, then by default they'll be on powerful opponents. So there is that. And also, if you guys have seen the trailer, you know that the animation quality is immaculate. And from all the extra details we got after the initial announcement, we know that like the animation gods are working on that anime. Like not like one or two, no, a ton of the animation gods are working on Dragon Ball Daima, which means that if you translate that into the games, they should have some of the best animations of all the characters in the game, bar none. I mean, again, like one animation that constantly gets referenced is Goku, like, you know, twirling the power pole. That, I'm sorry, the animation was buttery. Like, imagine like you're using like that kid Goku in Dragon Ball Legends, and that animation is like his special skill or something. And it's a generic power-up or something of the sort, maybe it nullifies like cover change or whatever, right? But he does like that animation, and it looks like amazing in Dragon Ball Legends, right? And we've seen how good the animations in Legends could look like when like the team just has fun with it, right? Prime example is the Ginyu Force. The Ginyu Force animations, or the Sparking Ginyu Force specifically, their animations are really, really good, and you can tell like the animation team just had fun with it. And especially seeing that we do know that Dragon Ball Daima is not going to be focusing on transformations or anything of the sort. It's going to be more, I guess, in a sense, a return to form of OG Dragon Ball, where transformations wasn't really the focus. It's really just hand-to-hand combat. Then I expect them to have, if they do add these characters into the game, I expect them to have a ton of fun animating these characters, especially if their animations are godlike. That's what I'm really, really looking forward to. And again, everything that I'm speaking about right now, like I've mentioned Heroes, I've mentioned Dokkan, I've mentioned Xenoverse 2, and I've mentioned Legends. Again, this is still new Dragon Ball content, and the possibility of all of that coming into the next Tenkaichi game is still possible. And the one good thing about Tenkaichi in comparison to Xenoverse 2 is Tenkaichi doesn't restrict themselves with the characters that they can add in the game, apart from hero stuff. So like, I don't expect to see like, you know, Super Saiyan 4 Gohan or Super Saiyan God Trunks or anything like that. I don't expect to see none of that. But Dragon Ball characters, I do expect to see in the new Tenkaichi game, alongside Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and now Dragon Ball Super. And now by extension of that, potentially Dragon Ball Daima characters can get added into the new Tenkaichi game. So, like I've been saying, this is just overall beneficial for the video games. Like I touched upon like the other games for a little bit, but the main one I wanted to focus on was Dragon Ball Legends, because again, that's a whole slew of characters we can get added into the game, and by default, that could actually help elevate one of the tags in the game, which is the kids tag. Granted, I mean, that would also buff Saiyans if it's Goku Vegeta. It will buff, you know, like regen if it's Piccolo, and all sorts of, I mean, it might buff Super Warrior if we get like, you know, Krillin and the other characters actually like hop in and actually help. But ultimately though, it would heavily boost the kids tag, because it's a tag that's in the game but doesn't really get utilized like that. Dragon Ball Daima would be the best way to boost that tag in any capacity. Like if that tag ever needed a buff, this show is the definition of boosting that tag. But again, only time will tell. I'm still excited for Dragon Ball Daima. I'm hoping that it's going to be a great anime with lots of cool scenes, cool fights, and of course, cool characters as well. Because at the end of the day, that show is more content for us to enjoy, not just by watching the show itself, but also experiencing them in the games too. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this real quick. I'm excited. I'm excited for the future of Dragon Ball, because it's looking bright. Like, we're finally out of the ages where Dragon Ball was a dry franchise, like a decade or so ago. We're finally at the point where we're getting a just consistent flow of content, and I'm all for it. But I do want to know what you guys think about all of this in the comment section below. But with that being said, I'm Ndukauba, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.